Good evening, ladies, and welcome to the From Chapter Council to Entrepreneur webinar. My name is Beth McAllister, and I will be your technical producer and moderator this evening. The webinar will be presented by Amy Riccardi, who will be taking over very shortly. Before we start the presentation, I'd like to take a moment to make sure you're ready and familiar with the GoToWebinar panel. So if you're on your computer, your right side of your screen will have your attendee control panel. And on the left, you will see Amy's screen with the presentation on it. The control panel can be minimized or expanded by clicking on the horizontal double arrow button in the upper left-hand corner. Sometimes minimizing that will make it a little bit easier to see the presentation. If you do have any questions that come up during the presentation, I'm going to ask you to type them into the questions pane, which you will see there. If you are using the mobile app version, you will see that questions mark at the very bottom of your screen, whereas if you're on your computer, you're going to see it on the right on that control panel. So if you do have any questions, whether they're related to Amy's presentation or whether they're technical questions, please feel free to type those in and we will do our best to take care of them. We're going to launch a poll question in just a moment too, just to see where our participants are at so that Amy can have some direction as to where she can take this presentation to give you an amazing experience. So during the webinar, we're just going to ask that you stay attentive and interact as much as possible because the quality of your experience definitely depends on your attention and participation. So for about the next half hour, try to avoid some distractions like responding to email, checking your social media. Just close that out and spend the next half hour here with your sisters. This webinar is being recorded, so if you want to watch it later, the online archive will be available in just a few weeks. So before I hand the microphone over to Amy, I'm just going to launch our first poll, which is asking what stage of membership you are in. So if you don't mind taking a quick second to respond to that poll. So I'll give you just a few more seconds to vote there. And I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. So Amy, it looks like we have our attendees are alumni who are joining us this evening.
Fantastic. That is great. So we ready to roll?
We are ready to roll. So Amy, I'm going to hand it over to you.
All right, thanks, Beth. So I want to welcome everybody this evening to our webinar From Chapter Council to Entrepreneur. This is a presentation that I actually gave at convention last summer, which was a lot of fun. We had a great mix of both active undergraduates and alumni, so it was a lot of fun. Probably about 50 people or so in the session. So we're going to take just about 30 minutes, give or take here, and run through the presentation. I'll tell you a little bit about myself and just do a little bit of introduction. So I'm actually Zeta Sigma Kappa from the University of North Texas, and currently I'm serving the fraternity as an EME trainer. I've been back in the day, a province officer. I was a leadership development specialist during the last biennium, and I've had a lot of other roles, chapter council advisor roles, and all kinds of things with the fraternity over the years. So I'm really excited to be here tonight. I live right outside of Washington, D.C. in Northern Virginia, where we just got about 4 good inches of snow from this morning to this evening, and now some ice coming down. So I'm hoping that my internet connection stays put for the time being, which it should, but it's been a kind of a crazy weather here for the last day or so. All right, so we're going to just go ahead and jump in here, and I want to just talk a little bit about really what the landscape looks like right now for entrepreneurs and business owners, and why women-owned businesses are really a great focus of ours. I own a company called Leadership Evolution Group, and we work with CEOs and executives to help them deal with things like employee engagement and human capital issues in their organizations. And so a lot of what I do in these presentations for Kappa has a lot of similarities and crossover between my work and my volunteer work, which is a lot of fun. So I'm a really big proponent of women-owned businesses, have a lot of friends that own businesses as well. And one of the big things that I always find interesting are the stats for women-owned businesses. So only 1 in 5 companies over $1 million is run by a woman. which I think is very interesting. So lots of women-owned businesses, but they tend to be smaller than $1 million. And only 4.2% of all women-owned firms have revenues over $1 million, which is a pretty small number. So I'm always looking to see if we can help increase those numbers. And I find that during this session, we had a lot of people at convention in particular, women alumni who are wanting to start their own business. So I've got some information in here that might be helpful for that a little bit later on. But let's talk a little bit more about, why I think this is just such a huge opportunity right now. Um, in the United States alone, we have about $11.6 million firms are owned by women. They employ nearly 9 million people, which is pretty amazing, and they generate $1.7 trillion in sales. So it's not an insignificant thing. And I will be honest with you, I think over the years with the women CEOs that I've worked with, a large percentage of them have been Greek women. And a lot of the men, frankly, as well, have been in fraternities. So I find that really interesting because I will tell you more often than not, and I would say it's way more than 50% of the time, the CEOs that I work with are Greek and have had leadership roles in their fraternities or sororities, which I think is really interesting as well. Another really fun, you probably know this guy over here on the left side, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. A few years ago, he made a very public statement on one of the shows about women-owned businesses, and he says basically over nearly a decade of putting his money behind small companies through Shark Tank, not some of his returns, but all of his returns have come from businesses that are run by or owned by women. Which I think is pretty incredible. And when he was asked why, he said basically women are better at time management and women set more attainable goals. And so I think that was just a really, really interesting take on women business ownership, and from somebody who sees, thousands of businesses year over year. So let's talk a little bit more about the whole concept of business structure. So one of the things when we work with executives is we create something called an accountability chart, which is basically just a business structure. And every organization, from a business perspective, has these 5 basic functions. There's some type of person running the organization. We call them a visionary, but often they're called a CEO. They're the person that kind of sets the big picture direction of an organization. We have somebody that we call an integrator. That's like a chief operating officer or a COO. And they're really responsible for kind of the day-to-day operations of the business. We have some kind of, over on the left, some kind of marketing or some kind of way to bring in the business. So marketing, communications. There's some kind of operations that happen with an organization, so a product or a service that they offer or a series of products and services that they offer. And then over on the right-hand side, they have finance, or a way to collect the money or pay the bills, frankly, for the organization. So in a really simplistic way, this whole fundamental business structure exists for any kind of organization, any kind of a business that you see today. Now, there's other operations and other functions of a business that will fall into some of these. Some of them will be named something different, but basically these are the basic 5 functions of a business. And then what we do after this is we really help build out a more robust business structure for whatever our clients are doing and their type of work. So this is not how our Kappa chapters in particular, or our alum groups for that matter, are organized right now. But you can see up at the top, the blue areas are the ones we just talked about from a business. And I basically took our Kappa functions and roles in a chapter and basically kind of aligned them. And we can kind of do a little bit of different alignment here too. There's some things that can move around, but basically took the functions of a chapter and put them into this model so you can kind of see what this looks like. So every one of our chapters has a president who ideally is setting the big picture strategy for the organization and is kind of the public face of the organization. We have our vice president of organization, who tends to be more like an integrator. Their job is to kind of make sure things are operating the way they should. Under the marketing side of a business, we have a lot of interesting things that kind of fit in here. So we have things like recruitment, public relations, Panhellenic, and philanthropy that all kind of bring in and provide outreach and public recruiting of our members. So I think that kind of can fall easily under the marketing thing. And so let's talk about that for just a few minutes. If you're interested in starting a business or have a business already, if you played a role in recruitment or public relations or philanthropy or Panhellenic, you have an understanding of kind of all of the external relations pieces that help bring in new members, which is really important. This is a lot like recruiting for a company. And so, you know, on the HR, human resources side of things, especially when it comes to recruiting new employees, any kind of public outreach, public relations work, or just frankly straight up marketing communications types of things can all kind of fall into this bucket. And there's a lot of similarities between the activities that happen in those 4 areas of a chapter and marketing communications and outreach in business. So that one is for sure one of the more obvious ones. So under operations, this is where things get a little bit interesting. So our biggest service that we provide in a CAPA chapter in particular are things that we offer our members, our current members. So we have things like our membership chair, education, events, new member who supports obviously our new members and new member education, and academic excellence. All of those things I would kind of put into this whole sphere of operations of a chapter. And there are functions of some other pieces here that might fit in here too. We had a nice debate at convention about some other things around maybe risk management and standards that might fall under operations as well. But these are really the functions, not necessarily of a business in our case, but of our organization and the core pieces of services and things that we offer to all of our members. And some of these even in our alum groups as well. So obviously we have membership and education and events as alum groups too. And then on the administrative side, where we had finance before, a lot of our clients call this administration, and they include things like legal, HR, IT, information technology, and those kind of functions that support the efforts of the rest of the organization. And so in this case, the things that kind of support our internal operations over here are things like standards, our treasurer, our house chair, both of the secretaries' roles, the registrar, the marshal, nominating committee, and risk management. You could actually argue, and actually I think this is pretty true too, you could probably put marshal over here under operations as well, since it's more of a ritual kind of thing. But you can put it over here in administration. There's good arguments to be made for both. But these are the functions on the right-hand side that really wind up supporting the rest of the organization. So if you're actually looking as an entrepreneur at an organization, if you had great experiences as an undergraduate over here on the left-hand side under these marketing activities, you have a really good sense and really great skill sets to really help a marketing and communications department in a business. If you did any of these things under operations, certainly, there's things around education and training, hosting events and event planning and meeting planning that a lot of organizations, a lot of companies do. A lot of companies, especially if they sell products or products and sometimes services, but even products, do a lot of trade shows and events. So our event management chair would have a lot of similarities in that way. I know I have a trade association client, and they put on an awful lot of meeting planning. They have meeting planner in-house who does a lot of their internal meetings for their committees and whatnot and their members. So the events chairman experience, I think, for them is pretty significant. Education and training, if you're a company, you probably do a lot of education and training for your employees, and subsequently we do a lot of that for our members as well. And there's a lot of, again, similarities in choosing curriculum and training plans and whatnot for internally in companies that you would also have in our chapters as well. And then again, over here on the right-hand side, these are all functions. While we don't technically have kind of HR here like you would see in a company, I think our standards committee runs very much like an HR department in a lot of ways, making sure that our members are living up to the standards that we set forward, And then obviously we have our treasurer who does obviously similar finance activities. Our house chairs are a lot like office managers. There's a lot of similarities in that, making sure that offices and the office space have the right supplies and the right um, resources that you need internally to support that. So house is a lot like office manager type duties. And risk management, frankly, if you've been, as an undergraduate, if you've been doing risk management, you've been doing a lot of things that legal departments within any kind of company are spending a lot of time on today. So there's a lot of similarities with that too. So I think that's pretty interesting. So with that said, I want to just take a minute and we'll take a sip of water here and see if there's any questions that we might have.
I don't have any at the moment, but we have had a couple of folks join us since we started, so welcome, ladies. And if you do have any questions for Amy during the presentation about the content, please feel free to type those into your questions pane. Or if you have any technical questions, please don't hesitate to put those in for me. But at the moment, Amy, I don't have any.
Okay. Well, I would hope that you guys definitely put them in there. That helps make this a little bit more interactive, and I would love to answer those questions. I think it's really important to make sure we get that covered. And I'm also curious to know, those of you guys that just joined us, if we have any undergrads joining us here too, because that changes the dynamics a little bit of the conversation. And I'd also love if you have a chance in that comment section or in the Q&A, letting me know if you currently run a business or you're thinking about starting a business, because I think there's some different directions we can go in the conversation too going forward here. But while we're doing that, I'm going to wrap up on this slide and just say there are a lot of ways that organizations can be structured. So this was just kind of my brainstorm of, if I was looking at my typical corporate business structure that we use when we start, which is in the blue boxes up top. How would I use that as our structure, and then literally how do we fit in these different roles and responsibilities into how a company would operate? And I could literally go and talk about any one of these jobs and tell you a lot more about how they tie into a lot of corporate jobs, and not just even corporate, and I said that kind of in the biggest sense of the word. Any kind of for-profit or nonprofit organization that we're working with has very similar functions. They're going to call it different things, but they're going to have very similar functions. And so if we don't have any more questions, I'll just keep going.
I don't have any questions at the moment.
Okay. All right. So the next thing I want to do is just kind of give you a few resources that I think are really useful as you're kind of getting started in your entrepreneurial process. And some people, again, if you're just getting started and looking at considering starting a business, or you already have one, these are some really interesting things that I just want to give you. So over here on the left-hand side, if you're just getting started with a business, I use a couple of different tools that I think are really useful. One is our platform called Genius U, which is a global entrepreneur platform that really links together. We have about 950,000 entrepreneurs across the globe in about 80 different cities. And we have this really cool thing called, actually several different tests, one called the passion test, one called the purpose test. You can take those for free, and I added the URL up here on the screen. So if you're interested in taking it, you can certainly just follow that URL, that bit.ly URL. And that is, by the way, a Q, an O, a lowercase o, and a lowercase l at the end of that. So I had people ask me about that last time. You can take the passion test and the purpose test for free. And again, it'll help you kind of identify what areas you're really passionate about, and kind of help get you started on your path. The Genius U platform is free. It also has a ton of great resources for entrepreneurs and getting them started. So if that is a thing that you're considering, that's a really great resource with lots of free online classes and resources that are available to you there. And then the World Games is also affiliated with Genius U, and there's a link for that. We just wrapped it up in December, but you can still get into the platform, and it's just another way to connect with other global entrepreneurs. If you currently have a business, this platform is a great way for you to connect with other like-minded entrepreneurs and possibly even find people to help you continue to grow your business. So if you're looking to scale or grow in a different country, or you're just looking for some other resources that may be less expensive, or people that have just a totally different perspective around your industry, the platform is a really great one to join. And again, if you have any questions about that, I'll give you my information at the end, and you're welcome to reach out, and I'll be happy to connect you. A couple of other places to get some really, really great content. If you're not following Marie Forleo, she is a fantastic and super dynamic speaker. She has lots of different resources on her website. She also has a thing called B School, which is starting up in March. B School is really cool. It stands for Business School. It's an online, I want to say about 8-week program. It's, I want to say a couple $1,000s, but the interesting thing about it is very much a start to finish program. If you're thinking about a business, but you don't even know what you want to do, but you want to have a business and you want to help kind of sort that out, you want to enroll in B School and go through that process. And the cool thing is when you pay for it once, you can take it for free every year after. So I took B School, I think about 4 years ago, and I have taken it every year since. It is chocked full of massive amounts of resources and everything from coming up with your concept to testing out your business idea to creating your marketing plan, creating your website, pricing models for whatever it is you're doing, and ongoing marketing, communication campaigns, getting clients, etc. So it's a great place to go to get started. I'm going to kind of bounce back here too. Gary V, if you don't know about Gary Vaynerchuk and Gary V and all of his craziness, he is a guy to follow. He's got lots of really great ideas, podcasts, email stuff that comes out, a lot of really great things. So if you can Google him on pretty much any social media platform, he has a great story, lots of free YouTube videos and whatnot to watch on all kinds of topics. So Gary Vaynerchuk is a great one to follow. He has a couple books out too that are really good. And then also Tim Ferriss has an amazing podcast, several books out. One is called The 4-Hour Work Week. You can search 4HWW for 4-Hour Work Week, and you can find all kinds of stuff on that. And he's got all kinds of great resources. A lot of it's free, and he has a really great Friday email that are his 5 Bullet Friday emails are really interesting too. It's just 5 bullet points of interesting things he's read, interesting products he's found, interesting concepts. And again, his podcasts are really great too. So if you're into that, that's a great resource. And then last but not least, cannot ever leave anything. I know finances are always a big question, and I get asked about, like, how do you finance? How do you start your business? Dave Ramsey has Financial Peace University and a lot of other great programs. One called EntreLeadership, which is about entrepreneurial leadership. You can go on daveramsey.com on his website and get all kinds of great information from him on the finance side of things for businesses. So these are just kind of some of my go-to resources. I get asked about stuff like this all the time, so I threw a slide in here at convention. We spent a lot of time talking about this, so hopefully you'll find those useful. If you have other things you need that these don't meet, let me know, because I'm happy to share other resources. I could probably put 10 slides of resources up here, but these are really good ones, I think, especially because I was tailoring my conversation at convention mostly to undergraduates, but we also had some alums too. So these are some just great resources to get things going. And with that said, if you're not sure what you're looking to do or want to do, or if you are advising undergrads who don't know what they want to do, which, you know, we all do. I think that's probably one of my biggest questions from juniors and seniors is, you know, I'm finishing my college degree, but I don't know what I want to do, or people that just graduated from college and just aren't sure what their path looks like. We use a tool called Kolbe, called the Kolbe A Index, which is a really great 36-question assessment that tells us how you innately like to take action and make decisions when left to your own devices. If taking that is something you're interested in, let me know and I can get you a really great discount on it. I think it's about $45 US or so, $42 US to take this. And that's basically my rate that I pay, but it gives you a lot of really great information. The information that you take from that Colby A index populates into a really cool one called OpGig, and this actually is a platform that allows you to, based on your Colby strengths, it will recommend jobs and fields that you might be interested in. And then you can go in and say, oh, I'm interested in this or I'm not interested in that. And it will then also tell you, based on the further information that you provide, it will actually tell you what kind of jobs are in your location or your area or cities that you're interested in moving to or working in. And it links to Indeed's salary information. So it'll tell you not only the open jobs that are available in your area, but also the salary ranges, which is a really cool tool. So if you're interested in that, I'm happy to set you up with that and explain that to you further. Another really great one is you kind of, as you're understanding your own strengths and where you want to go with your business or professionally, is Strengths Finder. You can get that through Gallup. And then also the Genius U platform that I explained earlier on the previous slide, it has great assessments that all help you figure out where your natural strengths are so that you can really find the career path that's right for you. And the second piece of this is then also working with things like OpGig, tools like this, and career advisors. They can really help you sort those kind of things out. One of the other things I will say that's a really great resource that's free, and a lot of people aren't aware of this, is your local chambers of commerce often are affiliated or have relationships with what are called SCORE advisors. And these are people from, here in the US, are from the Small Business Administration that are successful entrepreneurs who will help you for free. And you can set up coaching times with them to meet with them for them to help you kind of one-on-one with your business. So people like that do career advising are really great resources as well. So before I move on, Beth, just going to check in with you really quickly to see if we have any more questions.
I don't have any popping up right yet.
Okay, we can keep going. Actually, I think that's probably about it. Let me just give you my contact information. This is actually my cell phone number, so you're more than welcome to reach out to me, and my email address, and my social media stuff. So I would love to connect with you in whatever platform and whatever way you would like to do that, if that's something that interests you. I'm happy to set you up with kind of any of these assessments or answer questions. A lot of the ones on Genius U are free. A couple of them you have to pay for, but a lot of them are free. And I'm always happy to help Kappas out with this stuff because I'm just really passionate about it. So if I can help you in any way, kind of sort things out or answer questions or provide you resources or whatever, just seriously email me, contact me, whatever, in whatever format feels right to you, and I'd be happy to do that. So I think that's about it, unless we have questions, which I don't know, we have kind of a quiet audience today. The snow is really hitting everybody here on the East Coast, I know.
So ladies, if you do have any questions, now is a great time to type them into your questions pane, and then Amy will be happy to answer those for you. So we'll just give you a minute or two to do that if you are so inclined.
And while we're kind of doing that and I'm kind of wrapping up too, I want to just say, it is really amazing to me how many of our undergraduate chapters and undergraduate women are leading chapters with, in some cases, several hundred undergraduate women with budgets that are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And this is bigger than a lot of women-owned businesses. And so a lot of our undergraduates are leaving college with exceptional business leadership skills that they're just unaware that they actually have. And so I really want to encourage people to, as you kind of dig back into your own undergraduate experiences, there's so many things that we do as leaders in chapters that are so transferable to resumes and our professional environments and or starting up a business. So if that's something I can help with too, I'd be happy to, but there's amazing numbers of things that we all do as undergraduates that really do kind of give us that leg up on running a company.
So Amy, I don't have any
Yeah.
questions that have come in here from our
Okay.
audience.
What's the easy group tonight?
It was an easy group tonight.
Great. Well, I hope you guys found this useful. And again, if I can help you out with anything, please let me know. And definitely, I'm going to just kind of do a little plug for the Every Member Education Trainer program too that I participate in. The foundation is an incredible contributor to CAPA's leadership development. And so if your alumni chapter or undergraduate chapter is at all interested in any of these kinds of topics, we certainly can offer them to alumni groups and chapters as well. So all you have to do is go to the CAPA website and look up the EME or Every Member Education Trainer Program, and you can fill out the application for that. And those are primarily funded by the foundation, which is a
Amy,
lot
we
of
do have
fun.
a question.
Oh,
Anna's
good.
wondering what NomCom is.
Oh, that's a great question. That's a nominating committee. So over here, so nominating committee. So this is the group of women who are actually helping to do succession planning for the chapter. You probably remember this, but this is, yeah, the group of women who during the election cycle, usually in our chapters, that's in the fall. They're helping to put together the slate of officers that are going to be nominated for positions for the next year. So nominating committee. And I would equate that a lot to recruiting for a company. So this and or leadership development in companies as well. These are kind of identifying the future leaders in an organization and then making sure that they are kind of the right fit for the positions that they are being nominated for.
Fantastic.
Thanks for catching that too, because sometimes I put these acronyms in here and yeah, and some of us don't remember or just never had them when we were in undergrad. So thanks for asking that question. I appreciate it.
Fantastic. And that looks like
Great.
all of the questions we do have tonight.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have a great evening and thanks again for participating. And thank you, Beth, for helping to shepherd us through this.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, Amy, for an amazing presentation. I know I learned a lot tonight. And thank you, ladies who joined us this evening for your participation. So if you do have questions or comments about today's topic, please feel free to reach out to Amy. She's given you so many different ways to contact her there. Or if you have questions about our education programs in general, please feel free to send an email to education@kkg.org. And as I close the webinar tonight, a little survey is going to pop up. I would really appreciate if you take just a couple of minutes to fill that out, and it will help us through your feedback to shape future webinar training events. So thank you very much, ladies. I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and we will hope to see you soon.